And welcome to Shalom, Hartford. Today we're speaking with Alexander Kollias and Natasha Ulyanovsky. Alexander is a virtuoso clarinetist. He's performed at Carnegie Hall in Reykjavik, Iceland, in Tokyo. He's won numerous awards, notably the Paranoff and the Swanee. He's part of a chamber orchestra, also a klezmer band. And Natasha Ulyanovsky, many of you have seen her here numerous times. You all know that she's a virtuoso pianist and a virtuoso organist. So welcome, Alexander, and welcome, Natasha.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
You're a clarinetist.
Yeah, that's what they tell me, and thank you for that introduction, because it makes me sound like I'm a real clarinetist.
You are. I hear that you're the Paganini of clarinetists. That's what I hear. So tell me, so how did all this happen? How did you become a clarinetist?
Well, when I was, I don't know, 6, 7, 8, something like that, I remember always wanting to be in band and play a musical instrument. I grew up listening to George Harrison and having my little guitar, watching on MTV or whatever, and playing along. And so I really wanted to be a musician and be in band in this way. And my mom told me that when I could start, which was 5th grade in Illinois, where I grew up, they said that she told me, well, I have a clarinet, so you'll have to start on clarinet, and then you have to give it a year, and then if you want to train to something different, that's fine, and we can talk about it after. And apparently, it stuck.
And apparently you didn't give it up. So how come she had a clarinetist? Was she a clarinetist?
She played for a year maybe in elementary school, but she broke her pinky, I believe it was, and then fell behind with the other kids, and then she quit, and just somehow that instrument survived, and that was the first clarinet that I played.
The instrument survived, but
yes.
She did not.
Right, as a clarinetist.
So are you from a musical family at all, or what would you say?
My dad likes to think that he's extremely musical, and
what do you think?
I mean, he's an amateur guitarist, and he likes to collect guitars and learn chords on them and play a little bit here and there. But yeah, my dad's got a great ear, and thanks to both of my parents, they introduced me to a lot of wonderful music growing up, including the Beatles, the Monkees, Queen, to Madonna, to Led Zeppelin.
So of all, when in the introduction I said you were part of a chamber orchestra, and you're also you also do klezmer, and now you're mentioning like jazz and pop. So of all these different music styles, is there one that you favor?
You mean in terms of playing?
Yes, in terms of playing.
So, I mean, probably klezmer is the most enjoyable for me to get to play, and especially after having spent so many years in musical medical school, getting my doctorate, had to be very focused on that the classical music route, but klezmer is definitely.
And why klezmer?
Well, klezmer was kind of the window to my Jewish soul, I guess, growing up, and that was really the way I found a positive connection with being Jewish as a young child, and I grew up listening to it and then always wanted to play it, and I actually studied for a short time with a klezmer guy out in Chicago.
Well, I noticed you're wearing a yarmulke,
yes.
So I guess the Judaism thing stuck also.
Yeah, and my siblings and we grew up in a mainly secular home. My mother as well, her mom is Jewish, and her grandparents, and then and her mother, and so my siblings and I are all Jewish from my mother's side there, as the traditions dictates. But we basically, I remember having to beg to get to do any of the Jewish holidays, because when my grandparents came over, it was assimilate was the thing that was pushed, and my brother and I and sister, we really took it to the nth degree about showing Jewish pride. I remember my brother and I used to make T-shirts when we were kids that said, giant Magen David's on there, "Kiss me, I'm Hebrew," and these things,
So somehow the Jewish thing was very strong.
Yeah, I don't know, just that I've been told that there's like a spark or something, the Jewish spark, and apparently we have it. So
Well, yeah, that's what they say, that
yes.
you don't lose that spark. That's
Yeah.
why you have people who haven't had anything to do with Judaism for a long time, and then it comes back to them. They
Yeah.
haven't. So, did you ever have some sort of experience that, it's unusual for a person to wear a yarmulke? I mean, it's not a majority of people wear yarmulkes, so it means that you really connect to it. Was there some seminal moment in your life that made you connect to being Jewish, would you say?
I mean, there's so many. It goes all the way back to. I mean, I first learned I was Jewish from anti-Semitism. That there was the neighbor kid saying that if you were Christian and you would go to heaven, and if you were a Jew, though, you were going to go to hell. And so I went home and said to my mom, "We're not Jews, right, Mom?" And she goes, "Haha, funny story." So I mean, I don't know. Maybe there was always that sense of pride from that moment onward. But
You're connected.
yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things that I've known. My mom always felt pride with it as well, and I mean, I wear her first star that she had growing up as a teenager, that I had to beg her to let me wear because, Jew hatred is a thing that we all have experienced here.
Well, especially now with
Yeah.
what's going on. And Natasha, well, by coincidence, Natasha's from the Soviet Union, and clearly you understood.
Actually, it was similar situation when I was still in elementary school, and I came home one day and I heard conversation about somebody being hidden, and hidden, and I asked, "What is this?" And my mama says it means Jewish, and I asked some people. Mom said Russian, Ukrainian, Tatar, because Odessa. I'm from Odessa, just kind of multicultural city. And I asked Mom, "Is Rabinovich Ukrainian?" And they laughed. And then I heard that my father's parents were executed by Nazis. When my father joined the army, he was at the pilot during the war.
So I'm hearing that you're connecting, both of you are connecting musically.
Not only musically, even morally, because I wanted to defend Jewish people, defend grandparents from my father's side, and I just wanted to learn about this, about history of Jewish people.
And I noticed that you have a concert series called the Organ Sounds. That's a concert series that you conduct.
I cannot say I conduct. I play in some of them, and I invite the organists from different places. For example, in the spring there will be an organist. Actually, not in the spring. On 21st of February.
In what year?
Of 2025. We have organist from Juilliard School. He's a master's, Zachary Schurman. But Alex will play with me interesting music on December 20th at Beth Israel 2024.
And so, is this a Jewish concert, would you say, or?
There will be part of Jewish, and Alex can tell you. We will play pieces by Serban Nikifor. Which pieces we play? There will be.
A couple of shorter ones that I can't remember the names of.
Homage to Avihu Medina.
Yeah,
and
that's the one.
Garden, one in the garden.
Yeah.
Avihu Medina.
And then Klezmer Dance is the other one.
Klezmer Dance will be part of klezmer and part of Tchaikovsky Nutcracker. So there will be klezmer music.
So Alex mentioned that he has a feeling towards klezmer music that developed at quite a young age.
Yeah.
And Natasha, these concerts that you're doing for Organ Sounds, they include klezmer music, like with an organ. An organ is not a typical instrument for klezmer, am I correct?
Only with Alex.
Only with Alex.
Yes,
it becomes typical.
He is the king of klez. The clarinet is the king of klez instrument. And he is a great improviser also. And this is why it makes him different from musicians who play only classical or only jazz improvisation. Klezmer improvisation is different, on different modes and different styles.
So Alex is really a virtuoso. You are a virtuoso.
I do my best.
I understand that you're working in Hartford also.
Yeah.
So how did you come to Well, I want to ask a general question of both of you.
Yeah.
Tell me, is Hartford a good place for music? Is it a good town for music? Like we know New York is a good town for actors. It's a good town. LA, it's a good town for television and movies. What about Hartford? Is Hartford good for music?
I think what's the most important, the head expression in my first country. Not the town makes you good, but you can make good the town.
So the
That's
same,
all.
like, remember President Kennedy, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country.
Exactly.
So this is the same principle.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
so musically, are there a lot of musicians here? Is it full of people that do this kind of work?
I can compare this. My older son lives in Indiana. It's much better than Indiana. Okay.
I guess that's a distinction. Well, you're from Chicago, Illinois.
Yeah,
and you
southwest suburb, but yes.
Right. And then you went to school at the Hart School of Music.
Yeah, I went there for my master's and my doctorate. Yeah.
So what do you think? What's your opinion?
I mean, there's a lot of young aspiring musicians in the area, and it makes me think of, and I'll try to circle back, we'll do my best. It makes me think of a situation where I had, during COVID, right, everything got shut down, so people were bringing in people to come and talk to their classes to make things interesting instead of just sitting over Zoom and doing nothing, right? And I was talking to these high school students of one of my friends, and they all, like, submitted questions, and one of them asked me, would you recommend your career to any of us? And I said, absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
Right. And I said, because what I've done and the path that I've paved has worked for me. And it's never the same because it's already been done, right? If somebody does something, it's already been done. Like an actor is never going to be, I don't know, I'm just thinking of
Robert De Niro.
sure. Or there's never going to be another Johnny Depp, or there's never going to be another Tim Burton, or right.
And so
like,
there's never going to be another Alexander Kollias.
Right. I mean, like, I do what I do, and I hopefully am doing it well enough, and I want to do what I want to do, and to then say that somebody else has to do that or should be doing that or something, it seems there's an inauthenticity to that.
So you are a PhD in music?
DMA, but yes, essentially.
A DMA is?
Doctorate of Musical Arts.
A Doctor of Musical Arts. And so you must teach?
Yeah, I do. I teach at the Hotchkiss School. I teach at Miss Porter's. I teach at Wesleyan. I teach at Holyoke Community College, and I teach at Hart through their community division.
So you're busy.
Yeah, I spend a lot of time in my car, unfortunately.
Driving back and forth.
Yes.
And what about as far as music? Are you performing a lot too? Like, how does the performance, because that's a big schedule. You just mentioned 5 different places. That's a lot.
Yeah.
So how does the and you're doing organ sounds,
Right.
which is, is a bunch of concerts. So how does that work with performance?
I mean, I schedule, or I should say my teaching schedule kind of dictates then the way I can surround myself with everything else. With Hotchkiss, we have something that's our Hotchkiss Philharmonic now that we've done for a few years, which is a side-by-side orchestra with our top students. And so, like, I have, I'm sitting principal clarinet, and then our bassoon teacher is sitting principal bassoon, flute, oboe, etc. And then we have, my top student is sitting second clarinet with me, and we get to play some fantastic orchestral rep that way. And then, I have a standing gig where I go down to New Haven once a month with a jazz trio that I play with. We're called Blue Maderas, and we do, it's kind of like bossa nova style. And
chamber,
chamber, yeah, I play with the Hartford Independent Chamber Orchestra, which is, we're in the midst of a recording project right now with one of my friends where I recorded a concerto with them.
So you're busy.
Right, and then I also play with Natasha at CBI, obviously with the Organ Sounds concert, and then with the klezmer band there.
Congregation Beth Israel,
yes,
CBI.
yes, CBI,
We have a
yes.
special service once a month. It is called Shabbat
Oh,
Life.
yes.
He's the soloist.
Yeah.
He always plays Shema solo.
Yes.
Well, I mean, that's special. So this is the life of a virtuoso musician.
I guess so.
I guess
It's
so.
a life. Yes,
It's
yes.
And Natasha also. Natasha teaches and directs.
Actually, right now I'm not teaching, but I taught at Hotchkiss also. I taught at CCSU and at Hart School, and now I'm just mostly performing. And I work for two congregations, for Congregation Beth Israel, and for special projects, and for St. Bridget Catholic Church.
Well, I recall also doing quite a few shows with you in the day where you were a musician. I recall you were a musician at the Bushnell. You did a show with me at the Bushnell. And
I did Carnegie Hall performances twice.
And Carnegie Hall. And you did Carnegie Hall too.
I did, yeah.
Talk about that. How did you get to Carnegie Hall?
That was, and
because that's a big deal.
Right, that was quite a experience. Back in my undergraduate years when I was at Grand Valley State University, I joined their new music ensemble that had started while I was there, actually. And oh man, I don't remember if it was like on a whim or whatever, they wanted to try to do something called Music for 18 Musicians, which was a piece by Steve Reich, or is a piece by Steve Reich. And we ended up recording the piece after we did a couple of performances, and then we were invited to the Winter Garden for the Bang on a Can marathon, which, you know, as Natasha's talking, I'm like, man, the music world is such a small world that I met Robert Black then, and then he was teaching at Hart when I came to Hart, and I didn't even realize because he was part of the Bang on the Can All-Stars. And anyway, so after we performed at the Winter Garden, we got asked to record, and we recorded this, and Terry Riley, who wrote in C, I think it was for his 75th birthday, we did, he wanted to put together something with the Kronos Quartet, and they wanted to do in C. And so then he had heard our recording, asked Bill Ryan, who was our director at Grand Valley State, to put together some musicians to bring us there. And so it was myself, my wife actually performed in this, and then a couple other musicians from our school.
Well, this sounds, you know, I'm listening to both of you, and you've both been at Carnegie Hall, and you've traveled internationally playing piano and organ, and you've traveled also to Reykjavik and to Japan. And so I'm going to ask the same question I asked before, which was, so would you recommend the life of a musician?
I would.
Because now we're talking from two different generations. So what would you say, Natasha?
I think the person has to be a musician if he cannot refuse to do it, if he just easy to sacrifice.
So it's in your heart?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's in your soul?
In this case, because if person is not ready to sacrifice, no. But I think it's just completely different vision for the whole life if you do it.
So if you're a musician, you have to be a musician.
Yeah, that's
you can't
exactly what
just
I'm
go
thinking.
and sell cars.
Right.
It's not going to happen.
Yeah. It's, yeah, and I was injured halfway through my master's, and I had to stop playing for 5 months, and I was like, what do I do? And so then what did I decide to do? I started studying conducting. It was just, you can't do anything else.
So it's just sort of inside of you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that if you have to do it, you have to do it.
Yeah. Our Jewish souls are inside of us, and so is our musician.
Yeah, the Jewish soul is another aspect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, my parents, they did not approve my passion. They did not support my passion. That's all.
They didn't support it because
they were doctors, engineers, and so they thought it's just something for fun. But so I took it so seriously. I decided to go to special school for gifted children. Academics were really not strong. So,
And what about Alex? Your parents did support it.
They did, yeah. I mean, they paid for music lessons because my 5th grade music teacher was like, he needs lessons. And so they started doing that. But they supported it to what they were comfortable, which maybe that's true for any parent with any career choice, right? And I remember coming home my freshman year of school. I always wanted to be a veterinarian, which my brother actually, he's a DVM now, a doctorate of veterinary medicine. But I came home my first day of high school, and I said to my mom, I know what I want to do when I grow up. And she goes, you want to be a vet, right? And I said, no, I want to be a clarinetist. And she was like, okay. So there was a lot of hesitation in all of that. Even I remember having to, going to the schools and talking to teachers and things like this to try to figure out where I was going to go
What
for
about art
undergrad.
school? Did you get any scholarships?
I did, yeah. I had basically a full ride to Hart.
Oh, that's good.
But I mean, at that point, I was on my own.
I'm sure your
and I was
parents
married,
like,
and
your
yeah,
parents like that.
yeah. Well, I mean, I wasn't their responsibility. Now I was,
You're on your.
on
No,
my
I
own.
understand both of you because when I was young, I wanted to be an actress. But I got into summer stock, and if you know anything about summer stock, you're working during the day, you're rehearsing for a show that's going to be later, and then at night you're doing a show that's now. So you're working 24/7, and after a few weeks, I said, this is not what I want to do. Even though I loved being in theater and I still enjoy it. So I understand exactly what you're talking about. So it's just great that you're doing your passion and that it's firm inside of you, and your Jewish soul is also allowed to live. Before we end, let's talk a little bit about Organ Sounds that's going to be in 2024 and 2025. Natasha, talk a little bit about that.
Our next concert is with Alex. It is called Home for the Holidays. And it will be on December 20th at 6:30 at Beth Israel Congregation on 701 Farmington Avenue in West Hartford.
And that's in 2024.
2024.
And 2025, what's happening
Three
then?
more concerts in 2025, which I planned one in February 21st, March 21st, and May 30th. They're all at 6:30, and there will be three great performers. Well,
I want to thank both of you. It's very interesting for people who are watching and want to be musicians or want to be artists. I think that's an important message that you send, that if it's in you, you have to do what you have. You have to be who you are. And as Natasha said, a lot of sacrifice, but if it's who you are, I don't know if it's such a sacrifice. Maybe it would be a sacrifice to do something that you're not. Mm-hmm. Maybe that would be the biggest sacrifice.
Maybe I said sacrifice because if doctors make big sacrifice, they do something really necessary for people and they get paid well. But for musicians, it may not. Or for painters, it may not.
Well, you might not get paid well.
You may not, but you still do.
But you still do it.
You're doctor of the soul.
So you heard it here, and we are ending with the Doctor of the Soul. We've been talking to Alexander Kollias and Natasha Ulyanovsky, and we'll see you at Organ Sounds 2024 and 2025.